In the history of literary criticism, we have a number of literary figures who are not professionally critics, but they shaped the structures, definitions, and ideas for the writers coming after them, and they are considered the milestones in the current of literary criticism, and Walt Whitman is one of these literary figures. Hello and welcome back to another video about literary criticism. My name is Sohail, and if you are interested in topics related to literature, reading, literary criticism and so on, hit that subscribe button to watch my future videos as well. I upload 2 videos every week on Saturdays and Tuesdays. And today we are going to talk about the important role of Walt Whitman in the history of literary criticism, specifically in the survey of American literature. Walt Whitman presented his most significant ideas in the preface to his book Leaves of Grass, which reminds us of Victor Hugo's preface to his book Cromwell. The same energy, the same sense of newness and freedom animate both of them. If the poet is a world-shaking genius to Hugo, he is a god, or even better than god, to Whitman. Of course, in this video we are going to talk about Walt Whitman, and maybe in another video I will come to Victor Hugo, because he is also very important in the course of literary criticism in his own time. So he is also one of the writers who is not professionally a critic, but influences the survey of literary criticism. Walt Whitman is a critical figure in American literature, and both his poetry and his criticism is filled with a sense of uniqueness, which is unique to him, and he was the one who starts this sense of uniqueness in the whole American culture. He is an American and a Democrat, and no one like him has existed before. When he looks across to the old centuries, he finds that the best authors are tainted with ideas of caste and status, and rarely we see concerns about common people, for example, in Shakespeare, Scott, or even Tennyson. Whitman looks at this matter historically, and he sees that politics and literature have been intertwined in the past, and that they will also be in the future, because many writers are still clinging to these opinions and ideas and manners. But they soon will be dead, and it is now America's turn. And the future belongs to America and its literature. I'm just describing the things that happened in the Whitman's mind at that time. This is what he was thinking when he wrote his poetry. Whitman believes that this American literature is fittest for new days, as European literature was for the past. And this finally leads Whitman to start a unique kind of poetry, which was from common people for common people. And there is no need for American poets to imitate what Europeans or ancients were written. So he believes that America is large, and its poetry will have this largeness too. The American poet will be as all-embracing as the America itself, and his subject matter will be the manners of men and all free American workmen and workwomen. And now let me read a quote from Walt Whitman in which he says what American poets must write about. This quote is from this book, A Short History of Literary Criticism by Vernon Hall. This book, a very good and concise book, which is published by the Maryland Press, London. This is from page 96. Listen to this part, it is very important about what American writers and poets must write about. The perfect equality of the female with the male, the large amativeness, the fluid movement of the population, the factories and mercantile life, and labor-saving machinery, the Yankee swap, the New York fireman, and the Target excursion, the southern plantation life, the character of the Northeast and of the Northwest and Southwest, slavery and the tremulous spreading of hands to protect it and the stern opposition to it which shall never cease till it ceases, or the speaking of tongues and the moving of lips cease. Wow, this is one of the best quotes I have ever read. This is beautiful. The language, the choice of words, and the content. This is perfect. I'm going to cry with this. So what we understand until here is that Walt Whitman is trying to create a new mode of American literature, especially in the case of poetry. As a result, we have a kind of poetry which is different from the old versions, and it has a new an organic diction, meter, rhymes, and the American poetry is as natural as the woods and rivers of America. What is worth mentioning here is that all of these things which will make the new poet and the new poetry are born of freedom, and no great poetry is possible without the idea of liberty, and liberty is what Whitman demands, and his poems in The Leaves of Grass are great and concrete examples of his doctrines. We can also trace this fact in another important poem by Walt Whitman called Songs of Myself, and the point is that the achievement of authorial voice, identity, or perspective is something that 19th century American writers found very problematic, and Whitman wants to give America a voice to finally be a song of myself. And that is a big task, a very hard task, but is well done by Walt Whitman perfectly and beautifully. If you read poems by Walt Whitman, you will easily understand that there exists a difference, and even the shape of the poems are different from what you read before. And we see also the abundance of the pronoun I in his poems, and this is because Whitman is looking for that American identity and its true self. Well, this is a short but complete introduction to Walt Whitman, who is generally regarded as the father of American poetry, as the first voice that is distinctly new and purely American. Walt Whitman is considered the first American poet because he separates himself from the traditional forms and styles of poetry readers were accustomed to, and marking a huge break from these traditional forms and styles of poetry leads Whitman to free verse, which means no formal rhyme scheme, meter, or musical patterns, and we see this free verse throughout The Leaves of Grass, and he is also sometimes called the father of free verse. This is a kind of non-pattern kind of poetry. You can search for that. It's a very hard but at the same time easy style of writing poetry. But he was the one who started this in the American literature, and he can be considered the father of free verse too. Whitman's poetry is obviously different from the works of his contemporaries in 1855. So let me know your comments about him, about his works, and about this video. And if you enjoy watching this, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for your attention. Take care.